I bought my dream apartment and invited my entire family for a housewarming. I scrubbed every surface until it gleamed, lit candles in the windows, cooked a spread that could have fed 20 people. I set out wine glasses, laid flowers across the dining table, and waited. But no one came. At first, I told myself they were just late. Then I refreshed the group chat. Silence. Minutes stretched into hours. My food went cold. My chest sank lower with each passing tick of the clock. Finally, curiosity turned to dread. I checked social media. And there it was. Photos of my parents, my sister, my aunts, all smiling in front of my brother's new apartment. Toasting. Laughing. My mother beaming at his side. Not one message to me. Not one apology. Not one explanation. I stood alone in my sparkling kitchen, the silence roaring in my ears. My name is Haley Monroe. I'm 27 years old. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when a family who leaves you in the dark suddenly needs your light? I turned off the oven, switched off the music, and sat in the dim glow of my own celebration. Then my phone buzzed violently, notification after notification lighting up the screen. The first message was from my mother. "We need to talk. Now." I stared at the words, my fingers trembling. They hadn't cared enough to show up. But suddenly they needed me? I didn't reply. I let the screen burn bright with her demand, the silence on my end sharper than any words I could send. And in that moment, I knew this was only the beginning. To be continued. The next morning, my phone was still buzzing with unread notifications. Missed calls. Voicemails. A string of texts from Mom, growing more frantic by the hour. "Pick up. Don't ignore me. This is serious, Haley." For a family that couldn't spare one evening for my housewarming, they suddenly acted like I was the center of their universe. I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I brewed coffee, sat by the window of my sunlit apartment, and scrolled through last night's photos again. My brother's smug smile as he cut into a cake. Mom kissing his cheek. Dad holding up a glass of champagne. And there it was, the caption under my sister's post. "So proud of our golden boy, finally settled into his new place. Family over everything, red heart. Family over everything. Except me." By noon, I finally played one voicemail. Mom's voice was shaky, stripped of its usual superiority. "Haley, something's come up. It's complicated. We need your help. Please call me back." I almost laughed. Help. The same woman who told me I was just average, the same parents who never came to my graduations now needed me? I tapped my fingers against the mug, my silence louder than any curse. Another text arrived, this time longer. "We made a mistake last night. We should have been at your place. But there's something important we need to discuss. It's about the family finances." A call immediately. Finances. There it was. The real reason. Not guilt. Not love. Money. I leaned back in my chair, smirking. For the first time, I realized they hadn't abandoned me out of forgetfulness. They had chosen him again. But this time, I was ready to choose myself. To be continued. By evening, curiosity got the better of me. I finally answered one of Mom's calls. She didn't waste time. "Haley, thank God. Listen, your father and I need to talk to you about a small situation." Her voice trembled on that word, situation. I stayed quiet, letting her fill the silence. "It's about your brother's apartment," she continued. "He stretched himself a little thin with the down payment. The bank called. They're asking questions." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course. My brother overspent, and now they wanted me to clean up the mess. Dad's voice boomed suddenly on speaker. "We thought you could step in. You've been saving, right? You're responsible. If you helped cover some of the payments for a while, it would give him room to breathe." I nearly dropped the phone. "Me? After you skipped my housewarming to celebrate him? After 15 years of pretending I don't exist?" "Don't be dramatic," Mom snapped, the sweetness gone from her tone. "You're single, no kids, good job. You can spare it. Family sticks together." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Family sticks together? You couldn't even sit at my table for one night. You toasted him while I sat alone in the dark. And now you want my money? There was silence. The kind of silence that tastes like fear. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. Haley, don't make this harder than it has to be. It's just money. Exactly, I said coldly. My money. My life. And for once, it's not yours to take. I hung up before they could reply, my hands shaking, not from guilt, but from power. For the first time, the leverage was mine. To be continued. The next morning, they doubled down. Mom showed up at my apartment uninvited, tapping on the door like she still owned the keys to my life. When I opened it a crack, she tried to smile, her voice syrupy. Sweetheart, we didn't mean to upset you. But you don't understand how serious this is. Your brother could lose everything. I crossed my arms. He should have thought about that before signing papers he couldn't afford. Her smile faltered. We told him you'd help. You've always been the dependable one. Please, Haley, just a little loan. We'll pay you back. The word loan hit me like a bad joke. I thought of the birthdays they skipped, the graduations they left early, the years they told me I'd never be as special as him. Now suddenly my dependability was their lifeline. Funny, I said, how I'm dependable when you need money, but invisible when you're celebrating milestones. Behind her, Dad appeared in the hallway, his tone hard. Stop being petty. You owe this family. I felt something inside me snap, not with anger, but with clarity. No, Dad. You owe me. You owe me 15 years of dinners where I sat ignored. You owe me every holiday where I was too average to be noticed. And you owe me an apology that'll never come. Mom's eyes glistened, but it wasn't guilt. It was fear. She knew I wasn't bending. I opened the door wider, not to welcome them in, but to push them out. The bank's your problem, not mine. Good luck. I closed the door in their faces. The sound of it locking echoed like freedom. For once, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was the untouchable one. To be continued. The silence after I shut the door was sweet, but it didn't last. By the end of the week, the calls multiplied. Some came from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Haley, can't you just help a little? Your brother's under stress. Don't be so cold. Cold. That word burned. Where were they when I sat alone on my housewarming night? Where were they when my milestones passed unnoticed? I didn't answer. Instead, I went back to my routine, work, friends, evenings in my apartment lit by lamps I'd chosen, art I'd hung, a life I had built without them. Still, the buzzing phone on my counter was a reminder of the storm I'd left outside. Finally, one voicemail from Mom caught my attention. Her voice was shaky. Haley, please. The bank is threatening foreclosure. If word gets out, it'll ruin us. People will know your brother failed. We can't let that happen. Please, just think about the family name. I almost laughed out loud. The family name. The same name that had left me off invitations. The same name that never clapped for me, now dangled in desperation. That night, I sat at my desk and pulled out the paperwork for my apartment. Paid in full. No cosigners. No debts. I took a photo of the deed, the one with only my name written in bold. I typed out a caption and saved it, waiting for the right moment. Built this life without anyone's help. Some stories tell themselves. The power wasn't just in refusing them. It was in letting them realize slowly that I had already won. And for the first time, I wanted them to watch me shine without their shadows. To be continued. Easter weekend. The message I'd drafted sat saved on my phone. I hadn't posted it yet, but the temptation grew stronger with every desperate voicemail. On Saturday, my brother himself finally called. His voice was thinner than I remembered, pride chipped away. Haley, I know we've had our differences, but you can't just sit back and watch me lose everything. You're my sister. You're supposed to help. I let his words hang. Then I asked calm and sharp, did you think about me when you all skipped my housewarming? When you toasted your new place while I sat alone? Was I your sister then? He went quiet. The silence told me all I needed to know. That night, I opened my social media. One photo. The deed to my apartment, my name bold and clear, paired with the caption I'd written days ago. Built this life alone. Some stories tell themselves. Within hours, likes and comments poured in. Friends from work cheered me on. Old classmates messaged congratulations. Even distant cousins chimed in, some shocked, some supportive. And I knew, without a doubt, my family had seen it. By morning, Mom's text came through. "Haley, take it down. People are asking questions. You're humiliating us." I typed back. "Funny. I remember asking for the same thing when you humiliated me. Difference is, I have proof and I'm not deleting it." The weight shifted again. For years, they held power with silence, with favoritism, with exclusion. But now, their silence was the prison, and I was the one holding the key. For the first time, their shame wasn't my burden. It was theirs alone. To be continued. By the end of the month, the ripple effect of that one post had spread everywhere. At church, people whispered about how my parents forgot their own daughter's housewarming. At my brother's work, his co-workers teased him about moving into an apartment he couldn't afford without begging his sister for help. Even my golden sister facade cracked. Friends unfollowed her, tired of the endless bragging when the truth was now out in the open. I hadn't said a word beyond that single caption. But silence, paired with proof, was louder than any speech. Then one evening I heard it, pounding on my apartment door. Through the peephole I saw them all. Mom, Dad, my brother, and my sister. I opened it just enough to lean against the frame. "Well," I said, "if it isn't the family that suddenly remembers where I live." Mom's mascara was streaked, her tone desperate. "Haley, please. Take it down. We can't go anywhere without people whispering. Your brother's reputation is ruined. We're drowning in humiliation." Dad's voice, usually booming, cracked. "We made a mistake. We should have been there for you. But don't destroy us over one night." I let them stand in that silence, the irony thick in the air. One night. For me, it had been years of nights, birthdays, holidays, milestones ignored. Finally, I said softly, "You taught me I was disposable. Now the world sees the truth. You disposed of me first." My brother tried to step forward, but I raised my hand. "You don't get to rewrite this anymore. You left me alone once. Now you get to feel it too." Their eyes dropped, heavy with shame, and I shut the door. To be continued. Thanksgiving came again, and for once, I didn't dread it. My apartment glowed with warmth, candles lit, friends gathered, laughter spilling out of the kitchen. The table was full, not just with food but with people who valued me. There were no empty chairs waiting for family who never showed. As we raised our glasses, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. No performance, no pressure, just belonging. Meanwhile, across town the story was different. A cousin texted me a photo from my parents' house. A sad-looking turkey, burned on the edges, my brother and sister glaring at each other, my parents forcing smiles through silence. The caption read, "It's not the same without you." I didn't reply, because that was the truth. They had built their holidays, their family image, their pride on my silence and my service. And when I stopped showing up, everything they thought was solid collapsed. Later that night, as my friends left and the laughter faded into quiet, I stood by my window overlooking the city lights. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Mom, her voice heavy with regret. "Haley, I'm sorry. We should have been there. We lost sight of what mattered. Please call me." But I didn't. Because poetic justice isn't loud. It doesn't need shouting or vengeance. It's the raw turkey on their table, the whispers in their circle, the silence of a daughter who finally chose herself. They wanted me invisible. Instead, I built a life too bright for them to dim. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the one who walked away whole. I showed up to my parents' family celebration banquet, dressed, early, smiling. And just as I reached for the door, I heard it. "Sorry, you're not invited. Leave." I thought it was a joke, until they called security. And then my father said it, loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. "Get this beggar out." My name is Lana Hartley. I'm 35. And if you think I caused a scene, I didn't. I straightened my back, looked at my mother, who wouldn't meet my eyes, glanced at my sister, who smirked, and I walked away. No shouting, no tears, no curses, just footsteps. But what they didn't know was that everything they'd been celebrating, I paid for. The venue, the catering, the gold-plated invitations, the Airbnb rentals for the out-of-town uncles, even the champagne tower Mom insisted on, for aesthetic. They thought it came from my dad's retirement bonus. It didn't. It came from my account. Quietly, willingly, repeatedly. Until that moment, I got in my car, took a breath, opened my banking app, and started canceling. $7,200. Banquet catering, reversed. $12,000. Honeymoon flights for my sister, revoked. $4,800. Spa weekend for Mom and her book club, gone. $52,000. Ongoing payments on the beach condo they claimed as Dad's legacy, all under my LLC. Frozen. Effective immediately. Total damage, $76,000. By the time I reached home, I had 56 missed calls. Half from family. Half from numbers I didn't recognize. And then someone knocked at my door. Hard. I checked the peephole. And what I saw made me lock the door, slowly, silently, and grab the folder I had been waiting 3 years to use. You said. Standing outside my door was my sister's husband. Red-faced. Disheveled. Clutching his phone like a grenade with the pin halfway pulled. You need to fix this, he barked, without so much as a hello. They just canceled the banquet food. The hotel won't release the rooms. And my honeymoon tickets got voided mid-check-in. I leaned against the frame. Strange. Sounds like someone didn't double-check who actually owned those payments. He blinked. You did this because they kicked you out? No, I said. I did this because they forgot the one rule of biting the hand that feeds you. Make sure the hand isn't holding the receipts. He glanced past me, trying to see inside. Maybe to check if our parents were there. Maybe to spot regret. But regret wasn't living here. I held up the folder. Thick. Tabbed. Color-coded. Inside. Signed contracts with my LLC listed as financial sponsor. Cancellation clauses with my name as sole authority. Payment reversals processed within the hour of their betrayal. I warned them 3 years ago, I said. I told them if they treated me like a bank, I'd start acting like a banker. You're punishing the whole family. I smiled. No. I'm protecting my investment. And cutting my losses. He raised his voice. They're your parents. They called me a beggar. He didn't have an answer for that. Just turned, muttering something about lawyers and taking this higher. But here's the thing. You can't climb higher than the person who holds the ledger, the contracts, and the backup drive. He walked off. And I closed the door. Then walked to my desk, placed the folder down, and opened a new one. Labeled. Inheritance Audit, Phase 2. By morning, I had emails. 32 to be exact. Some polite. Some threatening. All panicked. My mother said, "We didn't mean what we said." Emotions were high. "Can we talk?" My father said nothing, just a forwarded invoice from the venue, now unpaid and demanding restitution. But my favorite was from the family group thread I hadn't been added to in years. A screenshot sent by my cousin. Lana's always been sensitive. She'll come crawling back. She always does. I laughed, then replied to the whole group. Just a reminder, I own the crawl space. And the locks were changed. No response. But later that afternoon, I received a message I didn't expect. From my parents' accountant. He asked if I had time to discuss some irregularities. Said he'd noticed the payments to their beach condo hadn't been coming from their trust, but from an LLC he'd never seen before. Mine. I confirmed it. Then I asked a question I'd been waiting 3 years to say out loud. Have they declared that condo as their asset in annual filings? Silence. Then, they claimed it was an inheritance gift from a private family investor. No documentation. So they'd not only lied, they'd hidden it. used my generosity to build equity in a property I technically still owned, under my company's name. They weren't just ungrateful. They were exposed. The accountant asked if I'd be willing to sign a declaration for tax records. I said yes, but only after I called my lawyer and asked him how fast we could serve them papers that would make that condo and every unpaid cent legally untouchable. He said, within 48 hours. Perfect. Because now, this wasn't about family. It was about fraud. By noon, the papers were drafted. A cease and desist for slander, misrepresentation, and unauthorized use of funds. And a property reassignment filing, removing any verbal claim my parents had over the beach condo. My lawyer, Reed, slid the papers across the table and said, "They'll try to call your bluff." I smiled. They already did. That banquet was the bluff. The process server confirmed delivery an hour later. And just like that, the family celebration turned into a financial reckoning. That night, I got a voicemail from Mom. Tearful. Rambling. "You're destroying us." Over what? A misunderstanding? You always do this. Always so dramatic. Ah, yes. Dramatic. The word used to silence daughters while they foot the bill. But she wasn't done. If you follow through with this, people will talk. Church, the neighborhood, your father's reputation. It was always about the performance, the appearance of unity, the illusion of a perfect family, the brand of love, not the reality of it. But this time, I let the voicemail rot in my inbox. Because something more important arrived the next morning. A message from my accountant. Subject: account transfer confirmed. Beach condo title finalized. It was done. Legally. Irrevocably. That condo, their prized retirement gift, was now permanently separated from their financial portfolio. And the taxes they dodged? Filed. With interest. Reed emailed me shortly after. "You've closed every door. Want to take it one step further?" I wrote back. Yes. Full audit. Start with the family trust. I want to know where every dollar went since 2017. Because they didn't just call me a beggar. They built their banquet on my back. And now, it was time to bill them for the chairs they never offered me. The trust audit peeled back layers I didn't even know existed. Reed's forensic accountant uncovered everything. $18,700. Withdrawn the week I graduated college. Emergency repairs that turned out to be a new kitchen for my sister. $9,000. Labeled as education expenses, but went to front row concert tickets and a spa weekend for my mother. $34,000. Quietly funneled into my father's antique car restoration, a vehicle he once said was a reward for raising such responsible children. They'd bled that account dry, then still had the nerve to call me the beggar. I asked Reed, "Is this criminal?" He nodded. "Only if you want it to be." But I didn't want jail. I wanted accountability. So we filed a motion. Request for financial recompense plus trust misuse documentation. They had 30 days to respond or settle privately. And that's when the mask finally cracked. An unexpected text came through. From my mother. "I'm scared, Lana. Please don't ruin the family over money. We'll make it right." I stared at it for a long time. No apology. No ownership. Just fear, the only language they ever truly spoke. I responded with one line. "Ruin? You're confusing ruin with reveal." The next day, my sister posted on social media. A long-winded caption under a filtered sunset. "Some people only show up when there's money involved. Glad I know who my real family is." I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Because now, they could say anything they wanted online. But in court, every word had to be proven. Every signature traced. Every dollar accounted for. And suddenly, the girl they once called dramatic had become the one they had to answer to. Their lawyer reached out on day 22. Tone clipped. Language desperate, wrapped in legalese. He offered a private settlement, $50,000 in restitution, no admission of wrongdoing, and a mutual non-disclosure agreement. Reed chuckled when he read it. They're trying to seal the cracks before the neighbors peek in. I didn't want money. Not really. I wanted a record. Proof that I wasn't just the black sheep. I was the scapegoat, the silent benefactor, the unpaid lifeline. So we declined. On day 25, my father broke his silence. He came to my office, the one they once called your little side gig, and asked to talk. I didn't get up. He stood in the doorway, hat in hand, pride barely clinging to his shoulders. "You've made your point," he said, "but you're about to ruin us. Are you proud of that?" I looked at him, at the man who once told a room full of guests that my sister was the real success story. And I said, calmly, "No. I'm not proud. I'm tired. Tired of funding your life while being written out of your legacy."
He tried to speak.
I raised a hand. You all called me a beggar. So I stopped giving. And suddenly, everyone remembered what I was worth. He didn't apologize. He didn't cry. He just left a folded check on my desk. Blank.
Signed.
I slid it back to him. "This was never about your money," I said. "It was about mine." When he left, I opened my inbox. A message from the court system. Trust disbursement fraud. Preliminary hearing scheduled. The date was set. And this time, they'd have to show up, not to celebrate, but to answer. You said. The hearing date spread through the family like a cracked pipe, quiet at first, then flooding every group chat I was no longer in. They didn't think I'd really go through with it. They never do. They expect silence. They expect shame. They expect the one they pushed aside to keep the peace while they feast. But this time, I wasn't the help. I was the witness. Read, and I prepped everything.
Timeline.
Account statements. Screenshots of messages where I was asked to spot them just this once. All the invisible IOUs made visible. The night before the hearing, my sister messaged me for the first time since the banquet. "If you go through with this, I swear I'll never forgive you." No, sorry. No denial. Just a warning, as if my peace required her permission. I didn't reply, because some people don't want reconciliation. They want reinstatement of the version of you who stayed quiet. The courtroom was sterile. My parents sat across the aisle with stiff backs and a lawyer who kept checking his watch. The judge asked simple questions. Reed answered them with math. He projected charts onto a screen, demonstrated how the condo payments came from my LLC, how the trust was siphoned for personal gain, vacations, spa days, cars, all under the guise of family needs. My parents' attorney objected, claimed informal arrangements, said, "This is just a misunderstanding blown out of proportion." But the judge? She wasn't moved. She turned to me and asked, "What outcome are you seeking, Miss Hartley?" I stood, voice calm, truth on paper. That's all. Let the record match reality. She nodded, gavelled. And with that, my name was no longer just a footnote in their finances. It was the headline. And for once, the room went quiet, without anyone needing to escort me out. You said. They didn't speak to me after the hearing. No calls. No letters. No, we didn't mean it. Just silence, the kind that comes when a performance ends and the lights go out. The judgment wasn't criminal. It wasn't handcuffs or headlines. But it was binding. The court ordered restitution of misused funds, not to me, but back into the trust, where it belonged. The condo's title was permanently transferred to my name. And my parents? They were removed from any future financial access to assets they hadn't earned. Reed called it elegant justice. I called it balance. Weeks passed. My phone stayed quiet, gloriously so. No requests. No emergencies. No guilt-tripped asks for just a little help this month. Then one envelope arrived. No stamp. No return address. Just slid under my door. Inside, a single photo. The family banquet. Everyone dressed in silver and navy, clinking glasses under crystal chandeliers. In the background, blurry but unmistakable me. Captured mid-turn, mid-leaving. The moment they erased me, memorialized by accident. On the back, someone had written. This was the moment it all fell apart. I held it for a long time, then walked it to the shredder. Because what fell apart wasn't family. It was the illusion of it. The one they built with my money, my silence, my need to belong. And once that illusion burned, what was left behind wasn't ashes. It was freedom. I built a new folder that day. Hartley Foundation. A grant for first-generation women putting themselves through school without family help. The first funding came from a condo sale. Mine. And for the first time in my life, every dollar I gave away was mine to give.